Hello, my friends. It's your old buddy Rich Whitehouse, and as you may be able to kind of see in the reflection in my phone screen here, I have tied my shitty old Logitech webcam to my head to make this video, which is probably not going to work out so great, but I wanted to show the actual device in this video as opposed to just the video on the device, and gotta work within your means. I am but a poor boy with shitty webcams at my disposal, so maybe also be able to see the cracks in my phone screen here. I'm definitely ghettoing this shit up. But anyway, this is the new iOS port of BigPEmu, and I wanted to make a video to actually demonstrate some of the fun new platform features. And so I'm in the input menu right now. Oops, gotta make sure the phone's actually in view here. And we've got gyroscope settings in the input menu for this port, and you can choose to enable pitch, which is of course tilting the phone back and forth, and roll, which is side to side. And I generally only like to use roll in practice. Like pitch can be usable, but it gets real awkward having to control the orientation of the phone on that axis. But anyway, I'm going to show Checkered Flag, native resolution, using the new analog controls that the script comes with BigPEmu implements, and using the gyroscope to steer, basically. And I like to tweak the defaults for this a bit. I've got default pitch dead zone is pretty aggressive, as is the roll dead zone normally, but I've set it to 0 because I like to, have it be pretty sensitive when I'm turning. And then, of course, the extents and the dead zones are in Euler angles, so I don't like to have to turn too far to basically get full analog intensity when I'm mapping gyroscope to analog. At least not in a racing game like this. If you're playing like an FPS and trying to turn with gyroscope, probably appropriate to turn things up a bit more. But anyway, so I've enabled the roll mapping. And when you do this, you want to go over to, just to clarify, when you're using analog controls in a lot of these games, you want to set the analog controller up on device 2. So you can see I've got it set to analog. And we go down and we actually want to bind the analog inputs. And the way you do that is you just hold the phone perfectly upright, bind it, tilt it back. Oh, there it goes. Same thing for the right stick. And now we're all set. So I've already set up the checkered flag script and everything. I'm in game here, so I'll just demonstrate the actual mechanics of it real quick. Oh shit. As you can see, it's feels surprisingly good. Oops. And again, you can change the extents and everything in the dead zones to whatever you prefer, but I think this feels pretty good. I'm trying to look up on the PC monitor to make sure this damn thing is in view while I steer. And I'm not that great at it to begin with, but yeah, there's that. And the other thing I wanted to demonstrate here was, oh yeah, so I'm going to show you Tempest rotary controls with swiping now. And before I get too far into this, what I like to do is you can go into the BigPEmu docs directory on your phone even, and you'll see, config files there. You can copy paste it, rename it. In this case, I've renamed it to, Tempest 2000 world. I don't know if you can actually read that. .bigpcfg. And then it works pretty much like the PC build. You can go ahead and import that, which I've already done. You can import the BigPCFG file, and if it's got the same name as the actual software image you've imported, it will go ahead and pick that up automatically. And so I've already done this. I've created a custom config for Tempest 2000, and when I do that, I go ahead and I set the device type for input 1 to rotary, which is what we do for Tempest, and make sure that the actual rotary control script module is enabled here, which is this one. And that will do a couple things. That'll basically fix up the stuff that's broken in the original game with rotary controls, and it will automatically enable rotary mode in the game itself when it detects that input device 1 is set to rotary as the device type. And the other thing I like to do is when you are playing Tempest 2000s, you don't really need to have the D-pad there, and so I kind of cheat here. I basically just like scaled it all the way down and moved it into the corner, so it's no longer occupying any screen real estate. And so once you do all that, you should be pretty much set to have yourself a nice time here. And there are quite a few properties that you can tweak here. Hold on. Oops, touch settings. And so swipe sensitivity, this is the main one. Once you enable this, it will automatically map swipe velocity to analog intensities for you. I usually go between like 6 and 10 or so. 6 is pretty decent for Tempest. And then friction is basically the amount of friction applied. So when you're doing like flicks and stuff, it'll kind of gradually fall off. Higher friction means a faster fall off. And then exponent is when it's actually mapping the swipe velocity into an analog intensity. It will apply this exponent as part of a power operation, so you can basically give that a nonlinear curve. I think 1.5 to 2 usually feels pretty decent, so it's got a little bit of extra inhibition before it picks up into full velocity. So, as you can see here, it's a bit sensitive, which again you can lower a bit, but I find this works pretty decently for me because this screen is not that great. And so my thumb is not super slick upon it, and so because there's actual physical resistance to my thumb swiping around, it feels better to have a higher sensitivity. But as you can see, it works pretty nicely. Assuming I'm not getting the phone out of view again here. But yeah, that's the default friction. Looks kind of like that when you're doing swipes, which again feels pretty good to me. Whee! So yeah, that's that. And trying to think if there's any other shit to demo for the mobile port here. I mean, I guess there kind of is. The whole, touch interface is brand new. Got all kinds of properties for this shit. Like shadow color. You can kind of see back there the shadow color changes. It's the shadow around all the little overlay bits. And there's some fancy stuff going on there. You can customize all these graphics, replace them with whatever you want. And all the shadows are, of course, dynamic and pre-calculated. So as soon as you change the graphic out, it'll calculate new, nicely Gaussian blurred shadows and everything based on your custom graphics as well. Overlay idle time, that's a nice one. Like if you're using Bluetooth controllers or something on here, you don't want the overlay showing all the time, but you still want it accessible for when you actually do touch your phone screen. You can just set this to however many seconds you want it for it to fade away. Once there's no touch. You got separate opacities for the touch overlay for both portrait and landscape modes. And haptic settings is another nice little feature. We've got different haptics for all the different button types, so attempting to kind of make the numpad feel softer like it would on an actual Jaguar controller. And the layout is fully customizable, so you can oops, not actually showing anything. You can, you know, move stuff around, scale it up and down, rotate, and when you fuck it all up like I just did, you can just hit reset all. But yeah, all this stuff, and of course, you know, you've got separate touch profiles and everything for both landscape and portrait. And of course, landscape is more transparent by default, since I realize my phone is going out of scope half the time while I'm trying to show things here. This is a disaster, just as I anticipated it would be, but I'm sure John is the only person that watches these things at this point anyway, so it's fine. Let's see. Confidential. No, no. Stop messaging. Oh God, why is it notifying me? Anyway. You know, as usual, everything is incredibly customizable in this emulator, so everything you could think of to want to customize is, of course, customizable. I got global offsets for the touch overlay. You can see it kind of moving around as I do this, and that can be useful if you're dealing with different devices of different scales and different aspect ratios. Without having to move in each individual piece around, you can kind of just like scale stuff up and down. Woo! What else we got here? There's some other new features that are going to be in this upcoming public build, like the pad wheel. Not going to bother demonstrating that at the moment, but it's a nice little addition. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all that's worth covering for this stuff. And of course, because it's an iOS device and Apple, you know, is basically fascist capital of software development. You have to import files before you can access them, so there's a whole interface for that, and, you know, import your ROMs and do all your shit there. Not going to bother going into depth there, but yeah. Anyway, that's that. But yeah, I haven't generally been making a lot of videos lately, because I haven't been productive enough to warrant it, for one thing, and my body is actively falling apart. Like, my gut is absolutely killing me right now, as it is all day, every day, most days. I don't know what the hell's going on. You know, I won't bother elaborating on that. You can read the patron posts or whatever if you if you care, but you know, life is what it is. I will be posting on there pretty soon to kind of like gauge what people would like me to start working on next. Oops. But I've got a few options kicking around in my head, so basically I'm planning to can't even keep a clear train of thought here. Basically I'm planning to put together a whole bunch of projects that I really want to work on, and some are more ambitious than others. Some are, in fact, far too ambitious for a man in my state of health. And could, you know, realistically, I could die before I finish some of these things, which is something that I consider pretty regularly. Like, not having a real medical prognosis for whatever the hell's going on with me makes that kind of a pain in the ass, because if it was like, oh, you've got 3 months to live, then I would just fuck off and, you know, enjoy my life. But if I've got another couple of years, then, you know, why not make a PS2 emulator? It's all about, you know, constraints and priorities. That's what life is, my friends. But anyway, that's all that. And I hope you enjoyed this lovely video where you could barely see anything. But I do hope that I reflected some of the fun of the gyroscope controls in Checkered Flag, like actually having Checkered Flag at native res running at an uncapped frame rate with gyroscope controls on the phone. I don't play a lot of phone games, but of the racing games I've played, this beats the shit out of all of them, probably because people don't make good games for phones. But, as phone games go, this feels pretty damn good to me. So, anyway, I'll see you folks later.